with the rock. You physically couldn't hold me, I don't care if you pushing 40. You can never little bro me. Euro step like Ginobili, from young OG to the OG. From nosebleeds to floor seats. Circle stronger than Cuban links. My gold dance, your gold plated. You verse me, now that's a reach. We ready. Who ready?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the One-on-One Sports Show here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. I am Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always, Brother Dante, looking for the coach and Sean to be here shortly. Thanks for being with us again on this Wednesday as we cover the world of sports. And unfortunately, things aren't going well for me personally. But yeah, we'll get into that towards the end of the show. But again, good that you guys are with us. Certainly, as you come in tonight, just make sure you hit the like button. Certainly, as you come in, we appreciate it. Certainly when you guys come in, and certainly as you enjoy the show tonight, if you're up for it, certainly consider dropping a cash app to the Black Man Unfiltered Network, as well as our own personal cash apps that you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen. But again, we definitely appreciate you guys being with us once again. And so I just want to go a shout out to my man Dante. How are things going down in Big D?
Man, I'm beat, man. I picked up my younger brother from college today, made the trip, and I got about like 5-something, went and got him, did the turnaround, got him, and just a little beat, but it's good to see him and just hearing that first year of college, like, oh, this happened. I was like, I told you about real life, man. He's trying to update his resumes to get a job tomorrow, because he's like, hey, right. I'm home, I'm ready to start working. Trying to get like a warehouse job. He said that's like a workout, and I was like, and work out with his time for basketball. So he's focused, man.
I heard that. Well, actually, my college years, at least for now, they're kind of winding down. I got my last one. She graduates next week, and so she's graduating cum laude, and so that'll be out three for three. Some batting 1,000. Got 3 girls out, and I got one in August. She'll be going to a medical school down in Grenada. And but as far as the undergrad stuff and whatnot, so we done with that chapter, and but just very fortunate to see how they've all been able to mature certainly through that process. So I'm sure your brother, certainly as he's got you as a big brother, I'm sure that certainly he's going to have the great the guidance necessary to do great things. Well, certainly on that level. So it's a sad time of year, graduation time and whatnot. But obviously, again, we got a lot of buzz going on in the NFL and whatnot. But I want to touch on a topic that Shawnee had mentioned as we're talking about topics for the show. Let's talk a little baseball. I mean, obviously, it's pretty early in the year, but I think certainly just recently a major decision in MLB has just been dropped. So basically, Pete Rose, who died, I think early in the year, has been removed from the ineligible list. So he was placed on the ineligible list back in 1989 for betting on baseball. Now he claims that he only bet, he didn't bet against his team, that he didn't fix games and whatnot, but he just had this thing of gambling. But as everyone knows, in every clubhouse in MLB, there's a sign, no betting on baseball. And that goes all the way back over 100 years ago. In fact, that's another name that also got removed from the list. Shoeless Joe Jackson is also being taken off of that list. And apparently these guys will be eligible with this. So there's going to be a vote coming up in, I believe, 2027. So, they're going to be eligible by then, but certainly by 2028, whether or not they're going to get into the hall or not. Now, again, it's not a guarantee because, again, as we know, certainly from the baseball voters, they are a peculiar bunch. I will say that much about, who they like and who they don't like. It's a very personal thing. It's not so much about your accomplishments on the field. And so, so that's going to be interesting of itself. So we can take this in sort of 2 phases. I want to get your thoughts on, one, the lifting of the ban, certainly after his death, and then their chances, him as well, I guess Shoeless Joe Jackson also. I mean, Pete Rose is, obviously he's more of a case. I would have to look at Shoeless Joe Jackson's record and see if it's even Hall of Fame worthy. But Pete Rose, I mean, obviously he's the all-time hit leader, all-time at bats. I mean, all-time. I mean, he's got so many record books there that he would be certainly a person to make an easy case for as far as ability. but I just want to get your 2 cents on your thoughts on both. So one, again, the eligibility for him, him taking off the list. Shout out to Shawnee being in the house tonight. And secondly, his likelihood that he's going to get in that 2027 or 2028 vote. And then we'll go to Shawnee with it.
I agree with them being eligible. I'm a guy that I believe that, hey, I understand the off the field stuff. The only problem with his is you were off the field, you were messing with the integrity of the game. Mm-hmm. And so I fully understand the seriousness of it. I know about, hey, he had opportunities to reconcile things. He didn't behave in the right manner to do so. But I don't love it. You being, deceased, and then we're doing this. But I do think he will get in. I think there's enough voters they remember his game, his career, and able to look it up. On Shoeless, I've only seen a movie or like a baseball documentary style thing about what happened. Mm-hmm. And how just egregious this was, and like they were paid so little. And
this was a fix. I mean, this was not just someone having a pastime. They actually did do some heinous things there.
Yeah, just heinous things. So I don't know how to gauge that one. That I would say I'd have to lean on I'm cool with whatever the elders of baseball, because they got some guys that are still some older writers around that have access to the information and can look through it. With them, I have a question mark, because you literally did it, the World Series. So that's a tough one. But I think Pete Rose will get in. I think he will. I think it's egregious what he did at the time, and his behavior was probably worse than the crime afterwards. But I do think he will get in. I think he will get in at 27.
Got you. Shawnee, what's going on, sir? How are you?
What's going on, fellas?
Yes, sir. And I got a good credit to you. Thanks for drawing our memories and bringing up the topic. In fact, Pete Rose, from what I understand, he's actually going to be honored tonight. Red Sox, I think, are playing the White Sox tonight, and so he's actually going to be honored in Cincinnati tonight. And I guess part of that might be I don't know if this was scheduled ahead of time, but obviously his recent passing, but certainly with this this ban being lifted. Certainly even more so, I think the event will be more special. But what are your thoughts on the lifting of the ban? And secondly, his likelihood of him, and like I said, Shoeless Joe Jackson's also was also on that list. The likelihood that they'll get in to the hall, and will it be with that vote in, I think it's 2027, I think is when that vote is supposed to take place. So what are your thoughts on both of those?
When I saw when I got the notification that he was basically removed from the ban list, I was like, y'all would do this after he passed away. And I believe he made some comments when he was still living, like if he don't get into the hall while he's living, he doesn't want to be in there, if you're going, after he's gone. He's like, putting me in there while I'm living so he can see. But if you're gonna put me in there after I'm gone, then. And I was listening to Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and with the producer, she brought up a point that Manfred, there was a reason why they did this when it comes to Rose. Now, the other guy, he passed away in the 30s or 50s, and he's still, but with Rose, the reason why they kept him banned while he was living, because they was worried about, basically, if they would remove him from the ban list while he was living, they was worrying about repercussions for he's going to take legal actions or whatnot. So to them, after he's gone, now they can remove him from the ban list, so they don't have to worry about all the potential backlash from Rose and whatnot, including legal, they will have to deal with. So that was something that she brought up that Rob Manfred spoke about. Um, I still don't like it, because if you look at some of the current baseball players and individuals in the Hall of Fame, it's not like they were all like angels on earth. You had a big one was what's his name? Kennesaw Mountain Landis.
Mhm.
He's in the Hall of Fame, but when he was commissioner, he literally did not allow blacks to play in the major leagues. He was the main figure during his time, and blacks did not come into the major leagues till he was gone.
Right.
So, but he's in the Hall of Fame. So if you're trying to, if there's something about this high moral character they expect, their Hall of Fame candidates to have, you can look at it, and it's a lot. But I think because they say it's like what, nearly 2.5, 3 years before they can actually vote him in.
Yeah.
I still don't think he's going to get in, because if you look at it, because it's still going to be up to the voters. All they got to have is a majority, and they still feel some type of way about tainted individuals in the hall. Because look at A-Rod, look at Bonds. It's some same voters who still keeping them out. Clemens. So okay, he's been removed from the ban list, but this has nothing to do with the Hall of Fame. He still have to be voted for the Hall of Fame. There's two different organizations,
Right.
and if they vote him, I think they still won't. They're not going to vote him in. So yeah, I know I spoke about it multiple times on here about how when we do talk about Hall of Fame conversations and whatnot, and we get to the major leagues, how they look at themselves as the gatekeeper. I think you're gonna see it when it comes down to Pete Rose. Yes, he was. I want to make it clear that people, when it comes to Pete Rose, that he's been removed from the ban list, but that has nothing to do with him going to be into the Hall of Fame. That's just Major League Baseball saying, okay, we take him off. Now, if you want to vote him in, he's eligible to be voted in if you all majority vote and vote him in there. But them same people who's keeping these other dudes who are still living, who the way they did Pete Rose, man, they treated him like he committed the ultimate sin.
Mhm.
So you have Aaron Rodgers. You got Alex Rodriguez. Who else? Like I said,
Well, all
Barry
those
Bonds.
guys from the steroid era, Sammy Sosa,
McGwire.
Mark McGwire. So all those guys from the steroid era. Now, again, are they going to then wait until those guys pass before? Is that going to be the criteria going forward? You have to basically die before you
I think
eligible.
Because those same voters, the same voters who still keeping them out, they still going to be the same voters 2-3 years from now who will be voting to let Rose in. Those clusters of voters, they are not going to let him in. I believe they were not going. It's going to have to be a whole new generation of Hall of Fame voters for Major League Baseball to. I don't even know when the eligibility for Pete Rose. I don't know how long that lasts. But as far as Barry Bonds and them, maybe the new generation of voters. Because right now, this current voters, they're not going to vote Rose in.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me better now?
Oh, you're fine. You've been fine the whole time. You good?
Oh.
It was just slow a little bit.
Oh.
Coach, what are your thoughts on baseball's decision to remove Pete Rose from the ineligible list? He'll be eligible for induction into the Hall of Fame by 2027. Him, as well as Shoeless Joe Jackson from that whole Black Sox scandals back in the 20s. I think he's being removed also. But what are your thoughts, one, on his removal from the ineligible list, and secondly, on the likelihood of him getting into the Hall when that vote comes up in 27?
How y'all doing, man?
Doing well.
It's interesting, right? Because there was a time that crimes that you committed became legal, so they sort of dismissed those crimes, right? Similar case, he betted on baseball, he gambled. And, for those who play sports, as far as gambling, you wouldn't want to be playing in the game that you're gambling on. It just makes no sense. But I'm glad to see that they finally did something. Does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Of course. I think there's still a 2-year wait period or something.
Yeah, like I said,
time
coming up in
frame.
27. 2027 is when the first vote will come up.
Yeah, so he may not make it in. You know, like Shani said, the guys that still remember that time may not put him in. Maybe as Shani and them get to be old and ugly like me, he may get in at that time. But, you know, it's yet to see. Then Pete Rose, I think he'll get in the first time eligible. I just do. I just think he'll get in because it's really split as far as if he should be in or not. So.
Yeah. So they may get in after his death. My thing with this is it's not so much the offense, even though, you know, again, every clubhouse has that banner over every clubhouse saying don't bet on baseball. So again, that rule hasn't changed. They still don't want, even though gambling, sports betting and gambling is legal, there's still prohibitions by the players. Certainly, and we've seen in the NFL, guys get busted for gambling, and the NBA guys get busted for gambling. So that, I don't think that rule hasn't changed. But I think with a lot of these guys, it's not so much the offense. It's in a part, it is the defense. It is the constant denial. It's the rubbing in the face. It's going on. Pete Rose for years put up there that he didn't bet on baseball. He was very critical of the commissioners at the time. Basically, you know, was crying witch hunt and all these other kind of things. And again, those same thing with those steroid players. You had the guys, they went on up on Capitol Hill, and you had the one guy he played for the Texas Rangers. I think Palmeiro was up, and he was up there shaking his finger, saying, "I've never done it. I've never." So again, I think that's what ultimately what's going to tick a lot of these riders off. If Pete Rose would have said back in the day, "Hey, I did it. It was wrong. You know, take your licks." Maybe it could have been a ban, maybe 5-year ban from baseball or something like that, or 10-year that you can't be involved in a game or whatever. I think people would have been more forgiving, but I think he was he's always been sort of like an arrogant player, you know, Charlie Hustle and whatnot, live hard, play hard kind of guy, kind of in your face type of guy, whatever. You know, great teammates loved him, but, you know, if he's on your team, but not necessarily if you didn't like him, if he wasn't on your team, that kind of guy. But I think that he rubbed a lot of writers, even in his playing days, he rubbed a lot of writers the wrong way. And then his constant denials afterwards is what really put a lot of people off. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there might have been a deal that was done or proposed back in that time that basically, look, if you take this or whatever, then again, we're going to hit you, but it won't necessarily result in a lifetime. But he just kind of, thumbed his nose at it, and he constantly continued to deny. So it's like anything else. Is it the lie that gets you or the cover up that gets you in the end versus the offense itself? Is that what he was being judged on all these years? And if so, for me, that's another reason why I don't think that he's certainly not going to get in on that first vote. You know, and again, I think for a lot of those older writers that are still there who were there during those days, which is still a lot of them. You know, I don't think you have a lot of millennial writers that make up those groups or whatever. I think they're still going to remember that kind of stuff. And I think on that, I think that may be why, you know, he may not get in, certainly at least not immediately on that ballot coming up. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you're going to have you may have to have a generation that dies off before, you know, these guys become eligible. And again, for the steroid guys, I think I can agree with Trey when he said, yeah, you know, once these guys, you know, pass on, they may get in. Because again, that's a floodgate. If you let one of the steroid guys in, then I think they all get in. You know, I think that dam gets broken if you let one in. So I think on that one, because it was so rampant in the era, it wasn't just one player just doing whatever. You know, I think that's something where I think they're really going to, you know, be cautious about where they go with that. Even those certain guys, you can make a case. I mean, Barry Bonds, before he got on the sauce, he was a Hall of Famer with Pittsburgh all those years. And you know, so I think that's really where where this is. I think it's the arrogance, and I think it's his you know, attitude is what's kept him out this long, and what'll probably keep him out for a little while longer. You know, when that vote comes up. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, remember, and currently in Cooperstown now, Pete Rose obviously is not in the Hall of Fame, but they have literally Pete Rose memorabilia, all like his own like section, bats, baseball, all jersey, all these Pete Rose items just sitting in there, but his bust, I guess, is just not in there. So I was like, so baseball, and I was watching First Take this morning. If y'all know Mad Dog Russo, if you listen to him, he's a historian when it comes to baseball. And when he was bringing up the fact that in the past, whenever baseball needed like a boost to basically sell tickets or whatnot, they invited Pete Rose. Like there was like I think in '99 they had like a 50 greatest players or whatnot, and Pete Rose was on the list. They literally, I think, put him on a golf cart, wheeled him out there and whatnot. And there was another occasion where they did the same thing, basically using his name to boost up their that game and whatnot, sell tickets. So then on the flip side, when his son made his major league debut, they would not let Pete Rose on the field. He had to buy a ticket. So it was like you saw the hypocrisy. They and this is basically the whole steroid era, basically in a nutshell. How MLB they took full advantage and all the money and whatnot. Because if you remember that McGuire Sosa race was huge.
Yeah,
because people forget
the '98 chase got me.
Yeah, exactly. It was bigger than NFL. It was that section of baseball was bigger than NFL.
Yeah, they would cut away any news show, any other sports show. They would literally cut away when Mark McGuire came up or Sebby came up. It was crazy.
It was going, and Major League took well advantage of that, and received all day because they literally like they kept the league afloat because it was kind of.
Remember, this is 4 years after the strike year was '94.
Exactly. That's
and they had a hard time kind of bringing it back. So yeah, it was definitely a perfect storm that certainly allowed that to happen.
They took all the money from that, but you're not seeing them getting that money back.
That's why I've always been upset about that. The fact that you took all the money, you let the game recover, but you won't let the guys eat.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, Pete Rose, he's being honored tonight in Cincinnati. For his death, and now with this news also, I think for a lot of people, they'll be at least more hopeful if you're a Reds fan about his eventual induction into the Hall. I think everyone here agrees that he should be in the Hall, for his play. And so we'll see. Like I said, baseball, you just never know what how some of these writers think. It's a very it's a very different voting process than I think any of the major sporting leagues. But with that, I want to move on to I guess we got to talk about the NBA. That's obviously that's the big news. That's the elephant in the room that everyone wants to talk about. But before we get into the games themselves, actually, let's talk a little NFL before we get there. So obviously, just wanted to, again, I know we've talked the Shedeur Sanders situation to death, but it just seems like adding insult to injury you had with the Saints. You have their quarterback decide to retire because of the injuries. He had a major shoulder injury and was considering shoulder surgery. So even more so, people are scratching their heads as to why Shedeur had passed so much. Blind man, he was certainly actually kind of giddy about it. Certainly, I guess he stopped being a Saints fan. I don't know if he burnt his Saints jersey. I know he's from New Orleans, but certainly he's very sort of happy about that. But as far as Derek Carr, I would say an above average quarterback. I don't know how you guys feel about him. You think he's middle of the pack or below above average or whatever, but decent career, kind of one of those guys couldn't get over the hump. And certainly winning the big spots, but he certainly was a competent quarterback for a number of years, just like his brother. I think he was certainly better than his brother, who had also played QB in the league. But any thoughts on, I guess, his retirement? And then also I think the NFL schedule has also been released today. Again, I don't think all the details have been quite fleshed out. I think those might have come out. I think they actually came out tonight. Actually, the full schedule.
Started the show.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm one of those guys. Look, I'm kind of enthralled in the NBA and all that stuff right now. I can't get into the schedule at least until training camp. But if you guys have something to say, anything that stuck out to you, I think the Dallas, the Cowboys this year, I think they're playing Washington or Philly.
Well, they started the season versus Eagles. That's going to be that Thursday night game. I think the Cowboys are going to have six nationally
televised games. Yeah, makes sense.
And the Vikings will have 2, and I'm imagining back-to-back weeks is the only thing that makes sense. 2 games over there in the UK, one in London and the other one in Ireland. Thanksgiving, Cowboys will be hosting the Chiefs. Look at some other games as well. There's another Christmas game. It's going to be a Christmas triple header between Cowboys will visit Washington. Well, hold on. So that would be the early game. So the 1 o'clock, I'm imagining this is Eastern. 1 p.m. Eastern game would be Cowboys Washington. The afternoon game would be the Lions Vikings. The night game will be the Chiefs Broncos. So that's on Christmas. So you already know the NBA, they used to have Christmas all to themselves. Now the NFL just came flat out, took that over. So both of the
I'm giving you guys because half the show is Cowboy fans. So how am I going to not talk about the NFL and give these guys an opportunity to talk about their Cowboys when it's half the
boys always complain about the Cowboys.
So you're going to get it from everybody in the chat because of the Cowboy heat in the
it's fun.
Like I said, I'll get into the schedule. I'll get into the schedule a bit later. Like I said, it's a little too early. Even my Steelers, I know they're making a big deal that they're playing Minnesota and Ireland. I'm like, who cares? I mean, it's who gets up for those games? I have no idea. Most of those games are past. Like I'm in church by that time, so I'm like, I don't even watch half these games. Even them, I may tape and try to watch it later. But I'm like, why? Where's the first? And that show doesn't even have Cowboy fans on it, so I don't even.
We just mentioned the Cowboys and notable games, and they freak out. Meanwhile,
there you go.
Cowboy. They talk about them.
It goes with the category, but he's lost to the rescue.
That's how Jerry be making all that money because everybody talk about him.
Lost in translation, bringing balance to the chat. Thanks for showing up tonight to talk about it. But yeah, we'll get into the schedule a little bit later on. But I think that was certainly amongst the notable news. Derek Carr's retirement again. Poppy. I think that's a decent assessment. He'll get you again 8, 9, 10 games. Not enough to get you to a Super Bowl, but there have been quarterbacks in the league who've been in similar situations. They just had that defense, that rode them to the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay, Buccaneers that year had it. So you don't need a great quarterback sometimes. The Baltimore Ravens, that first one they won back in 2000, you don't need a great quarterback. If you put him,
Flacco got on a hot run.
Flacco, yeah. Well, Flacco, he can throw that deep ball though. I mean, he beat Denver with that pass at the end to go to the championship game. So again, he can. He's got one. He's always got one in the holster. He can deliver when he needs to, but certainly Carr again never to quite the situation. He was supposed to team with AB when he was in Oakland, and that was a disaster. So again, not the right situation. He's not going to be a difference maker for you, but he's kind of one of those guys. Put it this way: if he were healthy still, and my Steelers are still looking for, even if they're planning for next year, I'm not saying he's the answer. But if you told me that they picked up Derek Carr to come in while they still work out the quarterback situation, I'd be like, Again, he'd be average. Tomlin, it doesn't matter who Tomlin puts in. He'll put Duck Hodges in. They'll still win 9 to 10 games and make it to the first round of playoffs or something. But again, you put him in a situation, if you got a solid defense, maybe he can get you somewhere. But again, with the injuries and whatnot, just wasn't able to get over the hump. But again, hopefully he does well in the end. Absolutely, Trent Dilfer. Obviously, again, he was able to certainly win a Super Bowl. So if he could win, I think, I would put Carr at least on that level with them. And again, here's some trash for me. Again, yeah, Steelers are done. Fire Tomlin draft. You're worse than the Yinzers, man. Pittsburgh. I hear Yinzer talk every day, talk about firing Mike Tomlin. But yeah, I mean, certainly, they need to do some things a little bit differently or adapt. They still try to be an old school organization there, but we'll see what happens there. But we can certainly move on, certainly to the NBA. And this has been a very interesting postseason. Before we get into the games specifically, want to talk about some of the injuries that have happened. So again, for my team, the Celtics, I mean, obviously they were, and again, I get shout Poppy Blanco, who's in the chat tonight. This is the curse of Poppy Blanco. I'm putting all this on him. He posted a pic. I wish I would have saved it because obviously he's not going to show it now, but he posted a pic on his Instagram live where he had a Celtics cap on, which I immediately addressed the situation. And I said, you trying to jinx my team? And he's like, what? So he knew what he was doing. So Poppy, I blame you for this. So obviously the Celtics are down. Actually, they're playing now. In fact, I've been so busy I haven't even checked the score. But again, the tragic
about 2-3.
It doesn't matter because they've been up by 20 or at least by 14 to 20 points in all of these games that they lost. And for whatever reason, and that's another trend that I want to talk about certainly in the show tonight, these teams that have been up, it's like no lead is safe. You could be up double digits and you could still lose these games. But thank you, Trey, for bringing it up. And certainly before we even get there, we got to talk about this certainly in the NBA. So obviously, and Trey, I will give Trey Taylor his flowers. He wants them. He wants his flowers tonight. So when all this went down with Luka, first of all, he was very adamant that Luka Doncic did not deserve that Supermax deal and saying that he was a liability. And certainly when the trade went down, he was one of the few, if not the only, to say that a good trade overall. And obviously we know from Shawnee and Dante the outrage in Dallas over that move, and people looking for Nico's firing. And just in the course of events, one, you had the Lakers with a first-round exit, certainly losing their opening round to Minnesota. So again, and same thing, Luka being Luka, liability on defense, and certainly not panning out. But then also you also have going in the Mavericks' favor. They certainly won the lottery, so they get the number one pick overall. So again, I people can look at that as good things come to those who wait and whatnot. So I want to know firsthand from Shawnee and Dante from the Mavericks fan base, has there been any change in feelings? I know my man was taking a lot of heat and whatnot, and so what is the feeling in Dallas now? Are people have they ceased from burning their Mavericks jerseys or cutting them up or whatever? What is the vibe in Dallas now? And yes, it seems like they're definitely on a course to get Cooper Flag, who I'm not sure again didn't like necessarily his performance in the NCAA tournament. So again, I'm not everyone's looking for the next Dirk or the next Larry Bird or whatever. I'm not sure if he's that guy, and I rarely touch Duke players in a big spot. But nevertheless, it seems like they're on the fast track to get Cooper Flag should he come out. So again, from the Dallas contingent, what is Dante? We'll start with you. Your thoughts on what's the vibe in Dallas with the Mavericks getting the number one pick for the lottery.
So DFW is turning the tide a little bit because I'm gonna talk about the real optics of it. Like the Mavericks, besides Ronaldo Blackman and Derek Harper in that era, the top key guy, the star player, has been someone either European white man, or now in this case, it's going to be Cooper Flag, an American born. So it's been that from Dirk from a German to a Slovenian. So trading him caused in Texas, let's be real, red state, there's a lot of people that feel that way. And so losing that guy, that hurt the Metroplex in a certain way with some fans. And some fans, there was a very small bit that agree with Trey here that Luka was a problem. There was a small pocket of those people. And while I will say this, Trey, you had a great point about getting rid of Luka because of the defense. But to say that they traded Luka to get flagged, they were still in the playoff hunt while they were healthy, while Kyrie was healthy and winning games. They literally fell so low in that point because of the injuries. So and they had a 1.8% chance. And the pick that they got was not this year; it was their own pick. And what statistically what happened was the game. If you look at it, the game where the Bulls hit the shot, the half court heave, that was the swing to change it from hey them being in that position to the Mavericks, and that particular pick was the one that made it. So everyone has been theorizing, hey, if they don't make that three, that pick actually goes to the Bulls. So that is a little wonky with saying, hey, great trade, Nico, good job. No, he still didn't get enough compensation, and there's still a lot of fans upset about that. But the odd prospect of him not trading and keeping the number one pick, so you got a young star with the other defensive prowess of Anthony Davis, Derek Lively, and the rest of the team, PJ Washington. It's like, hey, we get a guy, a young star with the defenders we got, and you get a rare opportunity, a young stud player, number one overall pick with a veteran-led team, and you get Kyrie Irving back hopefully around January, February of next year. So it's just like you said 1.8. Hey, that's all they needed. But we talk about all the time luck. There was a lot of luck involved with that. You can't get a good props for luck. He just has to going forward. He has to make sure he makes deals where he gets proper compensation.
Shawnee?
I'm over here trying to figure out how people try to put this on Nico as far as he was responsible for them getting the number one overall pick. I mean, the
hey, you in office. Look, you listen. You in office. You get the crown, man. You get the blame, and
the Rockets had a better chance.
You get the blame, and you get
the
praise, bro.
Rockets had Phoenix spot, and they had like a 3% chance. That's how low Dallas. Of course, when they ultimately got it, the city, they freaked out about it. And I keep mentioning this when it comes. I guess everybody was talking about Nico and his trading with Luka. The main thing that people was upset about was the return for Luka. Like, I see Trey blowing it up about trading Luka. I'm like, the frustration about Luka in Dallas has been there for like the past 4 or 5 seasons. Now, nationally, y'all may just figure that out, but here in Dallas, they was frustrated because his lack of defense. He was literally all offense, no defense, and he constantly complained to the refs. That has always been their frustration about him. But he was a franchise player. So generally, if you trade your franchise player, there's going to be like noise. There's going to be a trail about, potentially, hey, it looked like he could be traded or whatnot. It was just with Luka, it was just so sudden. And because it was so sudden, they clearly didn't get enough back for him when you just look at how the Knicks went about picking up Mikal Bridges and getting 5 first-round picks. Last time I checked, Bridges and Luka not nearly on the same page. So Luka should have been somewhere near that as far as the return of investment for Dallas. If my whole thing, me personally, I think anybody in the league is tradable, but you better be getting back the return. So if you're going to trade LeBron James in his prime, well, you better get a whole starting 5 plus for him. So if you're going to make that move, Luka was a franchise player with the Mavericks. He was also just led that team to the finals, the year before. So if his defense was bad, he obviously had enough offensive skill to lead them to the finals. And so his worth was high. So if you would have traded him and demanded higher picks, there's a good chance you would have, gotten something back. But now that he's with the Lakers now, so he's gone. Yes, DFW, they still was pissed off about the trade. Now the flag, them getting number one pick, that was just super luck. I mean, seeing people talking about if Nico.
Why gotta be luck? Why can't it just be blessings, man? Why can't it just be?
Well, blessings, luck, same. But as far as what people saying, Nico is responsible. Damn, like he's responsible. I'm like, man, Nico didn't have nothing to do with this.
Hey, listen.
If anything, I say Rolando Blackman, who was out there standing there, he was the lucky one. Now he's the one who's responsible for giving that number one over. I thought San Antonio had a good chance of getting it when they saw them being as a top 3. Then once they saw San Antonio went number 2, I'm like, yeah, how Mavericks pulled this off.
Man,
so
yeah.
Utah, but I did before I give it to Coach. I did my whole thing about this whole NBA lottery because you seeing teams. I think Utah did it. This whole tanking thing, because Dallas, even though there was a 10th seed, they were still in the play-in. But Utah basically tanking, worst record. They had the highest percentage as the number 1 pick. They ultimately what did Utah get? Like number 5 or 6? Like they had no.
Yeah.
They tanking was just useless. So I guess for the Mavericks fans, it benefited them because they got the number 1. But this whole lottery thing, I don't know, because it already encouraged teams to tank. But when you tank and then if you don't get even a top 3 pick, I don't know. I hope that I heard people talking about NFL should take this. Nah, NFL, leave it alone. Leave it NBA.
Awesome. Coach, what are your thoughts on the on Mavericks and their turnaround from the lowest of valleys, and now there's a sense of optimism in the air. What's your thoughts on this situation with the Mavericks? And also, I wanted to address now again, JC. Shout out to JC in the chat. Now again, what is this? Is this rumor? Is this like Mavericks about to go? We all know the family that bought him out. That's the big family out of Vegas. So could we be seeing the Los Angeles getting their first NBA team coming out of Dallas? I mean, is this the talk down there? So I want to let Coach address certainly the lottery pick first, and then you guys will comment on that. I didn't know this was a thing, but it seems like it may line up.
Listen, I'm gonna say this about the draft lottery. They just need to go back to the balls, man, and just have them pop up on the screen. Because all this put them in the envelope, man. I don't know what they're doing in the back. I like to see it in live in action. But for Dallas, I think this is just coming full circle. The fact that they were able to get number 1 pick. I think before the injury, they were still a good team. They had their top big guys were all injured. And now they started to come back. I think next year they definitely gonna need to draft a point guard. I don't care. Get Cooper Flag, number 1, but I wouldn't mind seeing AD and a couple of a first round pick going somewhere else because they have 2 good young big guys. Get a point guard, somebody can come in and start immediately. And then when Kyrie come back, he can do his thing because he's really not a point. He's more of a 2. But, it's going to be interesting to see how Dallas plays this out. I think the top 5 are really good. But, salute to Dallas, man. They needed a break. Nico, I know he was sweating bullets, and now he can change the whole trajectory. Cooper Flag, I don't see him averaging 25, 30 points over his career. I believe he's going to be a 17, 18 point guy. But, salute to Dallas, man. It's too early, man.
Cooper, I'm not feeling it. I'm getting Christian Laettner type of vibes from him. I don't see, game changer in NFL. I'm not saying he can't have a competent NBA career, but I'm not seeing game changer at this point. But I just want to go back real quick to Dante and Sean, and then we'll get into the actual NBA for real. But this is this being talked about that possibly the team moving from Dallas to Vegas? Is that a thing? I mean, families from it was that the Adelsons, right?
Adelson, yes, the Adelson family.
Yeah, so their institution in Vegas. So is this a real thing?
it's been whispered about a lot, but the fact that they actually have where the Cowboys used to play, which was in Irving, Texas, they've actually bought that site already for the players for the next stadium in Texas in the DFW.
Now, so that was that before the buy or after?
They purchased that before the move, before the Luka trade. They've done that.
No, I'm saying before Mark Cuban sold to the Adelsons. Was that already in?
No, the Adelsons purchased that.
The Adelsons purchased. Okay.
Because they're trying to. The original plan is they're big GOP donors. They are trying to push gambling in Texas, and they're trying to. And what their plan is, by the time they build the stadium, to build a multiplex complex that can be both an arena, gambling site, kind of entertainment type of complex. So that's already been discussed. Like, yes, the trading Luka thing is one thing, but JC, you said they were trying to build a casino.
Yeah, that's what
I was just talking about that. Right? Yeah, but what I need you to do, JC, help me out. Can you look up the Mavericks, the market size of Las Vegas? The market size is very important in the NBA. The Mavericks, Dallas top 5 market. You're not moving from a top 5 market to whatever little market Las Vegas is. No matter how much they care about, they've already got the gambling money coming in. So I just need you to be a little bit critical on I understand the conspiracy. You can conspiracy all day about the frozen envelope. I believe that one about the Knicks. I fully do. And that's a fun one. If you tell me that, hey, there was a conspiracy to bump the ratings, trade Luka to LA, next star, LeBron go off in the sunset, and then boom, here's Cooper Flag, here's another star to replace it. Because I do have belief in Cooper Flag as a young age. I've seen enough, playing with Team USA, playing and dominating, doing well at Duke. I could see him being a star player in the league. I'm not saying he's just completely, just completely transcended, but I see him being a multiple-time All-Star player.
Yeah, their plan was to buy the team, build a new arena, and try to put a casino with that arena. It got declined. City, state, they declined it. And then it just so happened, once that happened, like the Luka trade, that Luka trade for the most part was all Nico. I mean, of course the owners will sign off on it, but Nico by far spearheaded that. So it's not, they really didn't, we're not getting the stadium, go ahead, the casino, go ahead and trade Luka to piss off the fan base and I guess watch their watch the revenue or whatnot in the city go down. They say, we can move now. Because in order for them to move to Vegas, it still have to be approved by the other 29 owners. So they, like Dante was just saying, they're not going to move from the DFW Metroplex, because it's not just Dallas, it's a whole Metroplex and it's big. So they're not going to move from that Metroplex to a small city in Vegas, especially when they do get the support here in the Metroplex. So yeah, it was just rumors because it was just all timing, whatnot. They already came out and said that they're not going to move and whatnot. So now if they decide to move, that's a straight up lie to the Metroplex, because they already came out and said we are not moving. They've been adamant about that. We are not moving. We are not moving. So, but if you follow the NFL long enough, that they owners have said that. That's how the Oilers, I believe the Colts, they said that, and then they see the Colts packing their buses, so they trucks and
hang on now again, JC, my man's like from Watergate, like he's a deep throat from Watergate. He's dropping all kinds of stuff out there. So that's why Jerry is not making any significant change to the Cowboys, because he's eventually going to sell the team as well. What is going on? JC's got all this info, this intel.
Why would he sell a $10 billion team?
Right, not for no more franchise.
He may get 20. I don't know how much. If he's if Jerry, first of all, chat, excuse us. We're going to talk about the Cowboys for just a minute. All right. So again, don't kill us. But just real quick, how much do you think he would get if he sold the Cowboys?
What do you
15
want?
It's worth 10 now, right?
Yeah. What do you ask for? He'll get
it. so you get 15 billion. I think they're the most expensive sports franchise. It used to be like DC United and all that kind of stuff. Now it's like, could he potentially get 15, 20 billion? How much do you think he would get on if he sold?
He'll probably get about
at least 15. But he ain't selling though.
But yeah, because if you look at the Cowboys front office, they all related. Besides Will McClay, it's a family-run business. if you look at me personally, if I owned a team like the Cowboys and they were successful as far as revenue and whatnot, why the hell would I sell it? I will pass it down to my kids. They're gonna pass it down. It's a family business.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing.
I'm just
are
saying,
not
you know,
selling that team.
JC just
But
dropped some nuggets. I just said, but listen, guys, we're gonna soon. I'm gonna drop the link. All right, so I know Poppy's been itching to get up here for a minute now. So again, we're gonna drop the link again. Camera. Again, Poppy typically doesn't have camera on. Again, we'll make an exception because he's a friend of the show. But typically, we ask that for anybody who we don't recognize, camera on. Make sure you're legit. Certainly before you come up. So we're about to drop the link, especially as we get into the NBA discussion. And so I want to go there now. Celtics are up in the game, but again, that's meant nothing in these playoffs. And again, I want to talk about that as far as their ability to. They're up 12, but again, that could change in any moment. 3.5 minutes left in the third. But in it, so now he's driving. Okay, so I'm still gonna put it in the chat so pull over for a minute if you want to. Since you've been screaming to get at us, pull over for a minute so you can talk to us. But anyone wants to come up, certainly you can. Certainly doing the show. And again, shout out to our guy Andre Terry. Yes, he's got to get in there. Yes, he's gloating a little bit. Fly Eagles fly. Ain't mad at you, but certainly certainly that's something that'll it'll come in due time. I think minicamp comes up at the end of the month, and so there's plenty of football to talk about in the near future. But let's talk about this NBA playoffs. Let's start out with, again, I guess the big thing is the number one seed, I guess, throughout the playoffs. Cleveland loses 4-1 to the Indiana Pacers. Now, we were talking about last week. I think the Pacers are legit. I mean, Halliburton has been playing after this series, he's certainly, getting into the star status. I wouldn't call him a superstar yet because, again, I think superstar, in my view, people want to watch you play. So I think that's my criteria for a superstar. But certainly they were dominant throughout. They had the one game where they got blown out. But, again, they've been very, very impressive in this series. So, and I know Cleveland has some injuries. And what I really want to get into is what we saw with Donovan Mitchell. So, again, they're already down in the game. So I don't know if they would have won the game anyway. I don't know if it would have mattered. Donovan Mitchell is at the half, they come out for warm-ups, shooting up or whatever. And for some reason, he just sort of tweaks his ankle as he's warming up and doesn't return to the game. Again, gallantly, he came back in this last game, but again, they still lost. But we've seen a rash of these non-contact injuries. Steph pulls a hamstring in the series. So what has been going on, and is there something to? Is it just the length? I mean, everyone's talking about load management. Everyone's talking about all these provisions to keep these guys healthy at the end of the year. But these soft tissue type of injuries have taken a lot of star power, certainly out of these playoffs. I think it's affected the playoffs. Now, again, Dame Little, he was already kind of hurt going in, but he kind of had a freak injury also, I think, with his Achilles as well. What do you guys think about these injuries, these non-contact injuries that have been taking these guys out? Is there something with the training, the nutrition, the rest? What do you think is going on there? Because I think it's really affected, even though the games have been exciting, but we want to see stars at this time of the year, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to see them. So let's start with the coach. You have some background with this, training and coaching and whatnot. So what do you think is going on with these non-contact injuries that we've been seeing lately with these NBA, throughout all sports, but certainly with the NBA?
I mean, you can call it a mixture of fatigue as the season winds down, but this is not something that normally happens every year in and year out. It's just one of those years that some of these star players are getting injured like that. Like you said, non-contact, man. So, yeah, next year probably won't be no injuries when players come back. So I don't see it as an issue as far as the 82-game schedule. Hell, they've been playing 82 games since the beginning of sports, basketball, and dudes wasn't in as good a shape, couldn't have the bounce back, but they still played. So, again, it comes down to your age today, your lifestyle, and how you prepare, you know. So it's just unfortunate that the players do get injured, but it's part of the game. I don't see it, you know, like I said, the 82-game schedule, because you can miss up to what, 8, 9 games. They changed the rule. Over 10 games, you don't qualify for MVP or something.
Yeah, so 65 games minimum.
Yeah, so, you know, I think they'll start taking advantage of it. I think a player should be able to, you know, if you know I don't know, say 2 games a month or so, 3 games a month. So, but again, you know, just the luck of the sports. It's the luck of the sports, just the way it is. There's nothing I wouldn't be too concerned about.
Mm-hmm. Shawnee, what's your thoughts
I
on?
don't think it's not no clear-cut answer or why this happens. Only thing I can really think about is today's athletes are just so much more explosive and faster and so whatnot, especially in basketball, how you exploding off the ground, constantly jumping. You know, you're just doing it with more force than how they used to do in the past. So eventually, you know, those tendons and whatnot, they just get weakened. And then you saw what happened with Tatum. He barely made a step because they were trying to go after that loose ball, made a step and bam, that's when it happened. So, you know, it's maybe in today's era of, you know, they play so much. And I'm not even talking about just the NBA. I'm talking about now they play all this, you know, leagues when they're growing up and whatnot, and it's just constantly just the banging on your body, and ultimately it's gonna show up as you get older. You know, it's just a lot of mileage on their bodies from when they was playing when they was younger and whatnot. So, I mean, there's no clear cut reason why it happens, but I think just a combination of just the athleticism and explosive that athletes have today, and then many, especially if they reach to the NBA level, they have played a lot of basketball over their life. And with just keeping it in professional basketball, you know, Tatum, he was on, even though he didn't play as much on the court. Remember, he really didn't have an off season because they won the title. Then he had to go to
the Olympics.
And here go, you know, so you know, maybe that turned to play. So there's no strict science of why it keeps happening. But it is weird how it keeps happening to marquee players. It don't happen to, you know, maybe a crucial role player. It wipes out a team's chance of potentially improving the playoff.
But it seems to be happening a lot of sports. Remember the Super Bowl a couple years ago, San Francisco and Kansas City? The linebacker for the 49ers, he was squatted down on the sideline.
Yeah.
He gets up to get into the game, and he pops his Achilles. I mean, like, just freakish stuff that's happening. So we got Poppy is in the building tonight. We'll get to you in a minute, sir. But I want to get Dante in, and then we'll bring Poppy in to vent and rant, whatever he wants to do here. But again, Dante, what's your thoughts on these sports injuries, these non-contact sports injuries that we've been seeing lately? Is it the training? Is it the diet, nutrition? You know, is it, you know, maybe need to go back to that Chad Ochocinco diet, you know, eating McDonald's and whatnot, because these guys got the veggie shakes, they got the vitamins, they got the trainers, they got the massage therapists, they got everything going on. And somehow still with all that going on, still you can't stay healthy at the critical points of the year. So that's where I'm going. I mean, I may have to start following Jazz diet, but what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll say this. I was watching a podcast, and the amount of Achilles tears have gone up like a lot, by a large percentage in the NBA. And that's something that I want to say they're going to have to regroup with their doctors and the research that they're doing and the amount of rest and all the things that they put into to keep guys healthy. Another thing I might add is the issue that Damian Lillard had before he had the Achilles tear. I forget what it was, but I want to say it may have blood clots, I believe. And I was hearing that, hey, there's been an uptick in that. So that's something that they need to look at too, as far as when you're training and what's going on, to see if there's any links to that. So they need to do a lot of looking into that. What I'll say again is everything needs to be looked at, because I wish I forgot to send you guys the clip. It was a clip of former NBA player Lou Williams. And he was saying about load managing. Basically, what I've alluded to for years, basically the players get paid so much, they take the brunt of the hit for the load management because the teams are coming to them. Joel Embiid isn't deciding. They're coming to Joel Embiid and saying, hey, you're going to be this day or that day. And then it's just like no choice. Like, hey, you're going to be out this way. What we've seen is this will keep you healthy. That obviously is not working. Now, some guys, it could be physical fitness, but they need to go back, maybe. You need to go back to the old school diets. They need to do something to
squats, presses, deadlifts. I don't know. Bands and balance balls. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. It's just like these guys are. Yeah. Maybe they're stretching too much. I don't know.
Some things you can't hurt. You can't help. Like some things you can't, and sometimes maybe it's a younger guy. Things happen. Jason Tatum, aside from the finals and the Olympics, he's been in the Eastern Conference Finals basically his career. Like a lot of his career. So he's been playing late in the games. Sometimes that mileage, just an injury is bound to happen after a lot of work. You don't know. You just can't tell. We don't have the exact science on these things. But I would say more research needs to be done because when you lose those big players, there's a hole in the viewership. There's a hole in how the team feels. Because like you said, it doesn't matter. You basically know if they lose this game, going back to New York, up 3-2, no Tatum, who had, I want to say he had like 42 when the game he got hurt.
Yeah, 42 at the time he got hurt. Yeah, even more so. Yeah.
Just losing a great talent like that, losing Steph, where it's like, hey, you saw it game one, and then then the first series, we got to figure out how to keep the star guys healthy because that's what the TV contracts are built on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Poppy, if you're still back with us, so again, we got a note from the senior ups. Camera must be on, so hopefully, if you're in a good spot, if you're ready to join us, if you can pop the camera on and whatnot. So that comes from the executive office. So I'm just passing the message on, brother. But we'd love to have you. We'd love that.
Oh, then I'm in the highway right now. Sorry.
Okay. So if you get a chance to flip your camera on, but just be safe above all things. But certainly, I would love to have you in part of the conversation. But let's get into this a little bit. So obviously, Cleveland. Again, had the top seed. Now, again, I said from the beginning, I didn't trust their record. I think with the youth and whatnot that was there, obviously they had a lot of injuries. Again, I think in a couple of games, 3 of their starters were out, so they didn't have a full bit. But again, Indiana has just been dominant. They've been the more active team. They've had the scoring, they've had the defense, and they're just overall they're playing as if they are the better. They have just been the better team. And so, so what are your thoughts on Indy in terms of their chances? Could they, because certainly it's looking like the Knicks, regardless of what happens tonight, it definitely looks like the Knicks are going to be poised. So we could be talking about Indy going to the finals. And what do you think of their chances? Could they win the whole thing? Let's start with Dante and let's work it down.
You muted, Dante.
Dante, yeah, you muted.
Oh, my bad. I thought last year was more of a fluke, and it was kind of, hey, they got lucky, but they have shown me, hey, they're legit. I did think the Cavaliers they always say, try really hard and go extra effort to win a lot of games in the regular season. And the Cavs proved that true, that they were paper tigers. And I know, shout out to Trey, giving you flowers again. You did mention that the Pacers did beat them in the regular season series. I know the Cavs struggle with the Celtics. So it looked like a theme of they struggle with the top teams. I think they split with OKC. But Pacers have a legit chance, especially if they end up playing the Knicks. They have a legit chance to make the finals.
Yeah. But do you think they can take the whole thing? So if it's looking like either Denver or because I'm not sure if Minnesota or Golden State, certainly if Steph's not going to be 100%, I don't think they're going to come out. But do you think what do you like their chances against Oklahoma City or Denver? Because I think they're going to be right there as well. So what do you think of their chances in that situation?
I don't like their chances against the teams in the West. I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
The only team I like left is the Knicks' chances to be able to take it. But I'm confident in either OKC, Denver, or Minnesota. I feel like both of them are really strong. Either of those could win.
Gotcha. I'm going to switch over a little bit to Poppy. So I know he's on the road. First of all, again, eyes ahead, 10-2 on the wheel, sir. It's good to have you here. Any comments? Any thoughts that you want to share? Let's just get you on. Any thoughts you want to share, sir? Share on your the hex that you put on my Celtics. Again, thank you very much. I'm not going to forgive you for that one. But any thoughts you have, sir, on any things that we've talked about so far on the show, or anything you want to raise? So I'll give you the floor while we have you.
Yo, how you doing? How you doing today?
Doing well, sir. Doing well, sir.
First thing first, right? I just don't understand why. Yes, why? In May, y'all got to talk about the Cowboys. I just don't get it, bro. The obsession you got for this bum ass thing to talk about the Cowboys. And I know this is Johnny thing, and who else? I mean, I don't think black men.
They both live in Dallas.
Okay. Dante, there you go, Dante. Right? If they make a trade for like Jefferson, I get it. You see what I'm saying? If they make a trade for Joe Burrow, I get it, right? I get, okay, cool. They're on the news. Why do you manage every week to talk about the Cowboys? And I have to pull over for this one, man, because y'all pissing me off. Y'all pissing me off. Okay? Y'all talking about these bum ass Negroes that are terrible at playing football. Why? Come on, man. Nah, I have to get that out, man. I love you, man. I love you. I love you. Yo, it's a good day. It's a good day at Madison Square Garden. It's a good day, man. You know what I mean? We're about to make it to the Eastern Finals. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I smell the roses, Dr. Bennett. I can smell the roses, man. Smell the roses, man.
I salute you.
You know?
What can I say?
We're about to make it to the Eastern Finals. And actually, I was thinking this NBA final this year, when it comes to the rating, is going to do real bad. Real bad. Unless the New York Knicks some way somehow make it to the final, which they got a pretty good chance. You see what I'm saying? Because New York is a super huge market.
Yes.
It's 20-something million people in New York. We will watch. Trust me. We will watch. Right? Yeah, sad what happened to Jason Tatum, bro. You know what I mean? Like, just crazy. I know y'all was talking about the injuries. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about, man. Injuries is part of the game, bro. Injuries is part of the game, right? Do y'all remember that finals where KD messed up his Achilles? And on the same finals, Klay Thompson messed up his ACL. It was during the same final against the Raptors, I believe. Which, if none of that happened, Golden State would have won, right? Yes, bro, you got to understand, most of these players are bigger, faster, and stronger. So it's going to happen. It got nothing to do with the doctors, man. Yo, these things are $7, $8, $10 billion things. You see what I'm saying? Trust me, they're going to have the best doctors on planet Earth. These doctors are from Ivy League, bro. Come on, they know what they're doing.
I hear what you're saying, but teams fire their training staffs all the time. Every team doesn't have the same level of training staff. It was notorious that one of the issues with the Pelicans is the ownership owns the Saints too, so they're using the same training staff. So they're using football trainers for a basketball team. So it's not everybody is not the Knicks or the Lakers. Everything isn't apples to apples. Things can be improved upon. The Mavericks, foolishly, I know we were giving Nico Harrison praise. He fired their great trainer that was looked at and held in high regard for the new staff, only to now to say, hey, we have a better staff. Now they, after the season was over, cleared out the staff because Derek Lively got re-injured because they brought him back too fast. So no, there is something you can always look at. Nobody is above reproach, Bobby. I hear what you're saying in that regard. You make great points, but nobody's above reproach. Things can always be critiqued and changed.
The thing is, though, that I think LeBron James is kind of like
Wait. You can't talk about us bringing up the Dallas Cowboys when it's the schedule release and we made a pray for a good player. LeBron is out of the playoffs as a Lakers fan. What in the hell are you doing bringing up LeBron? You just as bad as Poppy.
No. I'm bringing him on because I say LeBron James is kind of spoil everybody, right? Because LeBron James is the exception to the rule. LeBron James is probably one of the few superstars, one of the greatest basketball players we ever seen that went his entire career without getting injured, pretty much. right? So now we're thinking that every player is going to be like that, but it's not like that. LeBron James also is the same guy that spent $2 million every year. I think he's been doing that for the past 10, 15 years, something like that. I don't think he's doing it now. He's too old right now. I don't think he's doing it right now.
No, I think
right?
he's still doing it. I think he's still doing it.
Okay, I give you that. But you see what I'm saying? So players like Steph, Steph came out of college. He was like that's the reason why he didn't get the pay earlier, because Steph was like, I used to get injured a lot. He has some paper ankles. You see what I'm saying? He always had ankle problems, right?
But then he got bigger. He put some size. He's a big guy now.
Which actually ended up benefiting the Golden State, because if they would have paid Steph, that run would have never happened. You see what I'm saying? So it just injury is part of the game. Can they do some things to tweak it a little bit? Yes, bro. But these people is bigger, faster. You see, injuries is not it's just part of the game, bro. Like, matter of fact, just right before I jump in, what's the running back for the Baltimore Ravens? Henry, right?
Yeah.
He invests $250,000 on his body every year. You see what I'm saying? He about 30, 31, if I'm not mistaken. Last year, did he miss games last year?
No, he was healthy.
No, he was pretty healthy all year.
Yeah, so we always want to get this freak of nature in sport, but then, man, like they're not the rule, they are the exception. I would like to say that, bro. For the most part, most players actually, if you think about it, try to stay healthy, relatively healthy, bro, for the most part.
Agreed. But I mean, even in NFL, the average life of an NFL player is what, 3 years, 3.5 years is the average? So
yes.
It's not likely for you to be healthy, but what we're seeing, guys, like I said, the guy for the 49ers, the guy's just kneeling down, he gets up and pops up and pops an Achilles. I mean, just freak injuries like that happen. And again, guys aren't, certainly they're going, they're using machines, they're not using free weights, they're a lot of the deadlifting and a lot of those heavy weights and whatnot, guys tend to switch off. Now you got guys going vegan or vegetarian. They're cutting out red meat. They're cutting out all these things. But again, are they necessarily a healthier? Is it keeping them from injury? Going through all these sort of fad diets and all this different types of training with bands and whatnot. But are we making better athletes? With these new sort of training methodologies, and like Jonte was saying, I mean, these training staffs get swapped out when for years. I mean, certainly in the 80s, 90s, and whatnot, did we see this rash of injuries? Yeah, Michael Jordan got hurt that one season that he basically missed, but he was pretty much healthy for his whole career, and he didn't necessarily, he didn't necessarily take care of the best of it. So Larry Bird drank beer and ate birthday cake every day and whatnot, and he except for he hurt his back actually trying to do some lawn work or something like that. It wasn't even NBA related when he got injured, and so so some of these guys is like I don't know, with all of what we know about diet, nutrition, rest, all these things, these guys got therapists and massages and all these things. Are these guys actually better off than they were back in the 80s or the 90s or what have you? Yes, I know they're faster, but is there a correlation? I'm just asking a question, because when we see guys who seem to be perfectly healthy, and they wind up with these injuries, without even contact, I'm scratching my head a little bit about that. And again, I don't think there's a correlation, but it's you would think with
these players
to avoid it.
I think these players today physically are way better than the old players, bro. I don't think that should even be come on, bro. Back then, it was a guy. I think I talk about like physically. Back then, they had players like a guy named Tractor Trailer, bro. This man was like a farmer. They were built like farmers, bro. Like, come on, bro.
He was a Zion Williams.
But Zion Williams. Okay, it's like 3 NBA players that look like out of shape. Joke is one of them. Zion Williams, you can still see some definition on him. All right,
he does. He stays in.
He's not gonna be all ripped up. He can literally play those whole games and bust your ass. So I get what you're saying, but I also get what Mr. Reddy is saying. Look, it might need to be more of a medium. Maybe the guys are training. I'm not sure. I think that's above my level of expertise with the training.
And as far
I want to touch on, if you don't mind. Go ahead, doctor.
Oh, you got it. You got it.
I want to touch on the Dallas Mavericks moving. Like that's so weird, man. Do people understand what Texas represent for America, bro? Texas probably at the bare minimum top 3 richest state in America. Can we agree on that? Mm-hmm. Why would you move a team from Texas to go to a new market like Las Vegas, bro? That's not how that works. Okay? And then he says something like they're going to, Jerry Jones going to, Jesus Christ. Jerry Jones might bring slavery back before. Listen, Jerry Jones, I know. Jerry Jones might bring the slavery back before he sell the Dallas Cowboys. He would do that first before he sell that team, bro. Like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? That's those two things. We're not going to see that in our lifetime. That's not going to happen. No. And y'all was talking about Pete Rose belonged to the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Baseball, man. I don't know. I don't understand what they be doing on baseball, bro. And I love me some baseball. I don't follow it like that no more, man, because I just don't. I lost the love for it. Mm-hmm. But the Hall of Baseball should be embarrassed of themselves. How are they going to have a Hall of Fame? We have Pete Rose, Roger Clemens, and Barry Bonds. Like, yo, listen, man. And I know about the steroid part, but let's talk about Barry Bonds for like 2 seconds, right? Barry Bonds was a Hall of Famer before the steroids, man.
Facts.
The first 8 years, Pittsburgh. Skinny Barry Bonds. I grew up watching Barry Bonds. To me, that's the best player I ever seen. Barry Bonds, King Griffey Jr. Yeah. See what I'm saying? Those two players, and David Ortiz is my favorite player.
He has some injuries. Where would he have been if he
exactly?
Didn't
Yo, baseball they too old school. They having, and that's why the youth don't rock with baseball, bro, because they are stuck in the 1940s, 1950s. They don't want to include the youth, right? That's why you see your average black or Latino kid, they be like, man, I'd rather play something else, man. I mean, the thing is, baseball is kind of like a Latino sport because it's easier coming from those countries to make it. It's a fast track to make it to the league. You see what I'm saying? Like coming from here, you got to go through like a high school, then college, and then the AAA, the farms. When you come from Dominican Republic,
you don't have to go to college, though. I mean, if you're good enough, they're going to find you. So you can bypass the college route.
And that's why he make it a Latino sport because you go get the talent from Dominican Republic, Cuba, Venezuela. You see what I'm saying? And you fast track your way.
For American players, like a lot of American players think you got to go to college, and you don't.
No, I agree. But the thing is, that's like the tradition over here. You see what I'm saying? That's what you see what I'm saying? In those countries, they be playing baseball with no shoes, bro. Trust me, I know. I seen them. You see what I'm saying? Like, and that's why they be so good, right? So that's what made baseball no attractive. So they just need to inject some youth into that sport, man, because it's just sad, bro. Because they still, bro. Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer. Pete Rose is a Hall of Famer. Like, I know he gambled on some games, but he still was a monster.
Yeah,
he was a monster.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. And like I was saying earlier, I don't think it's necessarily the gambling that kept him out. I think if he would have just did a mea culpa early on, I think he would have been in by now. But I think his defiance, and I think with a lot of these guys, even with the steroid guys, back in the defiance pissed a lot of those guys off. And again, those guys, it's the writers who make these decisions. So again, if you're going to be at confrontation with the writers, no matter what your resume is, they're going to feel a certain way. There's guys who should have been 100% vote in terms of Hall of Fame election, and they didn't get it 100% because some writer just decided, I just don't want to do 100%. It's stupid. Yeah. But that's how
Dr. Bennett,
Yeah.
Dr. Bennett, you know what? I can't wait for this to happen. I want to see what they're going to do with David Ortiz. David Ortiz was the name was on that list. Yeah. That's my guy, bro. That's my guy right there. But David Ortiz, name was on that list. You remember that list that he was like 300 players or something like that? I think I might be having the number wrong, but he was on that list. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think that one they're gonna hold off on that because again, if you let one of those guys in, then you gotta I think that's gonna be a floodgate. You gotta let them all in. Whereas with Pete, I mean, you don't have too many guys who were even accused of the gambling or whatnot. Again, I thought that should have been an easy case. How you judge an era, even though that era arguably saved baseball after the 94 strike, that
98.
again, you're opening up a can of worms there that I just don't think they want to visit right now. So I think for a lot of those guys, they may have to wait until all those guys sort of die off before they would consider it. You got all this old guard, the Mike Lupicas, you from New York area, so you know all these writers, in the New York area that they seem to have a lot of sway in that voting and whatnot. Mad Dog Russo, I think he might be a writer. Mike Francesa, all these guys who have voting credentials. Again, they have, like you said, they have an old way of thinking, and until those guys pass on, until you get some Gen Z, some millennial guys in there who are not so married to the past, I don't think they're gonna have movement on that anytime soon. It just
you still gotta coordinate, bro, how to hit that baseball. That's probably one of the hardest things to do in sport, bro. To coordinate your eyes to hit that baseball, bro.
Mhm.
Of course,
Yeah.
we know steroid will help you. We know that, right?
Right.
Will help you for the strength, right? But like,
here's how I
you know
understand.
what's fun? You know
I
what's
don't-
funny?
Go ahead.
That the best year of baseball, which was 1999, I was like 9 years old, was the year that saved baseball. Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa going back and
Yeah.
forward.
For real, yeah.
98.
Yeah.
The Summit of Love. That's how they call it, right? Summit of Love.
Right.
And then Barry Bonds was it 2001, right? When the towers fall off. 2001. When he had he broke the record. What year was it?
Well, the single season home run record down. That was 98.
Yes.
He had 70 that year.
No, I'm talking about no.
When
That's when
Bonds-
98 was Mark McGwire. So I'm talking about when Barry Bonds was broken.
Oh yeah, that was 2000, 2001,
Wha-
2000,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
So pretty much the people that put baseball on their back.
2007.
It was 2007.
Yes, 2007.
Okay. So the people that put baseball on their back, they use steroid. What are we talking about here, man? Like, come on, yo. And they knew it too. They all knew it.
David is already in. Wait a minute, David's already in 2022. Hold up, I gotta look that up.
Well, I'll touch on one of the points that Poppy brought up about baseball. Basically, is in some Latino countries is bigger than soccer. And Mr. Ben, I know you brought up and how you was a big fan of that. I forgot the official name of it, but like a World Cup, whatever, for the hockey, and how energized, and even though it was an exhibition game,
Yeah.
like tournament.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if y'all ever seen the World Baseball Classic, but it's basically just like that.
Yeah.
February.
If you watch the World Baseball Classic, especially Latino fans, it is loud. You see the players, they celebrate every damn thing. Like they are just boisterous about their celebrations. Don't let it be a huge play. Or they will be yelling all around the diamond. And it's just so much energy. And so you can see they play, you can tell the love for the sport that they have when they play it. Now, translate that to over here in Major League Baseball. Yeah, they have the money up here, but because it's a whole, is basically they want to keep this old school minded thing because, okay, I say this, Frank Robinson, he's a well-respected black baseball player. Frank Robinson is one of those people who he does not want Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame because he was so pissed off and angry by it. I think their relationship improved before he passed away. Rose did, but Frank Robinson he was on the record saying he does not want Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame because he cheated the game. So that's that, and this is Frank Robinson. So this is basically another black man and him and Pete Rose were teammates at one time. And he still said that. So Major League Baseball, they just focus on the past. And that's why you hear now that you see the conversations now about how can Major League Baseball appeal itself to the youth of today. But if you go watch that World Baseball Classic and how they do things and the energy and what they show, it's a completely different game over there.
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe I should
that,
ask
and I
them.
think there is a national pride. Like we talked about this with the NBA.
Yeah,
I think the All-Star game should be U.S. versus international. I think that would bring some ratings to the game if you had a totally international team versus the U.S. players. I think that if you're going to save because now everyone's talking about getting rid of the All-Star game. If you're going to try to save it, do something like that, because we all saw the energy during the Olympics, and so why not carry some of that energy into the NBA? And I think you certainly have something there as well. But people like to see those sort of national, international rivalries and whatnot. And so if you can pull that off, then I think that would be something worthwhile. But we're coming towards the end of the show. I just want to talk kind of high level. We talked about the Cleveland series with Indiana. I think Indiana, they're the hot team right now. I think they can beat anybody right now, honestly. Even the Knicks, I think that'll certainly be an engaging series. Last year, I know the Knicks, they had injuries. Brunson got injured in that series, which caused Indiana to go on. So again, it'd be very interesting to see those teams have a rematch. But I think Indiana, I think that they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. Let's talk real quick about the Denver as we close the show out. The Denver series with OKC. So again, that series is and I think OKC's up 3-2, but I see that series going 7 games. Any thoughts? Jokic again puts up a huge effort the night before, but it seems like after a while, it's like he can't just do everything. You know what I mean? It's like I think it's too many times where you just got guys just watching while he does what he does, putting up crazy 3-point shots and whatnot. But again, you're not going to beat a team as balanced as OKC if he's going to be the only one contributing or whatnot. But I do think OKC's they clearly have the edge right now, so we could be looking at that. And again, as far as Golden State, Steph, I'm not. Hopefully, he can come back and help them. I just can't see them overcoming that to win. But obviously, I think it's going to be the winner of the Denver OKC series versus the winner of the Knicks Indy series. And I agree with Poppy. Having Indy and Denver is not going to do a lot with the ratings. I certainly agree with that. Certainly everyone would do well if the Knicks are in the. What's that?
Imagine Indy versus OKC.
Yeah, not going to draw not going to draw a ton of ratings, unfortunately. But I like Indiana, but I think that would be an exciting series if started with the Knicks. But I think for the NBA, I'm sure they'd be hoping for those guys to come out, or if the Celtics can rebound and somehow by miracle win Game 6 in New York. But we'll have to see. But as we come to the end of the show, so we kind of bounce it all the way around tonight. And yes, David Ortiz Poppy was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2022, so he's already in. So certainly that's not going to be issue, even though he was on that list. But again, I don't think they're going to open up the floodgates on a lot of these guys. McGuire and those guys, anybody who went on Capitol Hill that day to testify, none of those guys. Palmeiro, forget it. 500 home runs or not, I don't think he's ever going to get in. Man was wagging his finger at Congress. Nah, that's not going to bode well for him. But let's all get closing thoughts in. Again, shout out to our guy Dante. I know he had to drop off. But closing thoughts as we close out the show. So I'll start out with let's start with our guy Poppy. That again, thank you for joining us as always. You're always welcome here, and I know we go back and forth and whatnot, but I appreciate you, bro. And your opinions, and you're always welcome in this place. So anything you'd like to say before we end the show tonight? Poppy, you there? I think he froze up on us.
Yeah, he froze up on us.
Okay, all right, Shawnee, go ahead, and if he comes back, I'll bring him back in. But go ahead, Shawnee.
Okay, I guess my final thought is, let's keep it with basketball. I still believe OKC. I think now they have a good chance of winning the whole thing. But I'm still waiting for them to. I'm still waiting for Shea to have that MVP game per se. Many believe that he was a favorite. It was between him and Joker. But they are a balanced team. I think the Nuggets has challenged them because they experience. And then Jokic, I mean, he brought up the little twirly-whirly 3-point shot that he had yesterday. I remember that play, and I saw when he picked up his dribble, and started spinning around, saying he's about to make this 3-pointer. That he does that. He changes his form of shooting like a shot put type shot, and it goes in. But yeah, I still believe OKC is the favorite to win it all. Boston right now is playing basically inspired ball right now. Maybe it's just home cooking, and they role players right now just making everything they throwing up there. So if you're the Knicks, you just watch this game out and just wait till you go back to New York. But Indiana is the truth. Last year they was basically offense, but they had poor defense. This year their defense rose to the occasion. I
Mm.
believe after January, whatnot, there's like a top 5 defense in the
Yeah,
league.
yeah, certainly.
So they match. So I'm not surprised that they was able to challenge Cleveland. And we brought up the fact that they had a winning record versus them in the regular season. Um, yeah, I knew the offense they could score on anybody. I believe if we have a finals, Indiana versus OKC, I know we're talking about because the ratings, mainly because the markets is two small market teams. But if you enjoy basketball, that will be a fast-paced series. But we're looking too far ahead for that. So
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Coach, any final comments? And again, Poppy, I know you weren't able to get back on, but again, appreciate you being here. But go ahead, Coach, close us up.
No, man, this is that time of the year we all like, right? NBA draft lottery just took place. The NFL schedule's coming out. NBA finals about to kick off in a few weeks. I do think Indiana's playing the best team ball right now in the playoffs. Although OKC, they are a very good team. I think, they're learning a lot, especially playing against Denver, who's a previous champion and the Joker. So it's going to give them great confidence if they can close it out the next game. New York, I don't know. It's hard to tell what they'll do. They really have to going to close out the series. So I would love to see New York and Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals. Indiana's playing the best team ball, but in the West, it's still wide open to me. I think with the youth of OKC and who else is in that West. Golden State. I think Minnesota's going to. Yeah, I think Minnesota will go ahead and take care of business with Golden State because they just don't have enough firepower. Without Steph, they don't have enough to sort of combat Anthony Edwards because he's playing some of his best ball right now. So it's interesting to see, man. But yeah, I see. I see OKC and Indiana, but again, it's a lot of ball to be played. As far as baseball, man, get your slow kids, sign them up for baseball so they can learn some hand-eye coordination. Learn those basic skills. They come in handy as they get older. Whether you play baseball or not, man, let your children, son, to play baseball. Other than that, man, listen, man, sit back, everybody, enjoy your summer, work out, get some good exercise. The weather's getting nice, man. So, salute.
All right. Again, we want to thank everybody again for being on with us tonight, Brother Dante. I'm sorry, Brother Anton. Again, I know we're not talking about. Unfortunately, we're not talking about Stanley Cup playoffs or whatnot. Again, once my Devils lost, I lost all interest in it. But I appreciate you being in. But again, if you get here a little bit earlier, especially we're kind of going into, I won't say a lull in sports, but certainly not until training camp or whatnot gets going or we get into the finals. If you want to join us for a hockey segment, I will certainly talk with the fellas or whatnot. But we can certainly give you a segment if you want to talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs a little bit. If anything exciting that we need to know going forward. But once the Devils were out, man, I kind of jumped off. I ain't gonna front about that. But glad to know that you're a fan and whatnot. And if you know some hockey fans, certainly invite them to the show. Drop the link to the hockey fans out there that you guys want to talk it up about.
Playing.
What's that?
Them, but the Stars are still playing.
Dallas is still in there. See,
they 3-1 right now against Winnipeg, and I think Winnipeg was the #1 seed.
Wow,
they won it. I just found out the winner of the regular season in hockey, they win the President's Cup. to be a
Right.
President's Cup winner.
Right. Yeah. So certainly I'll do my best. Maybe once we get to finals time, maybe I can put a little more investment into the game.
Nobody name.
But I appreciate shout out to the hockey fans that might be in a place there. And yes, again, unfortunately, yes, Dallas. See, again, we cannot stop talking something Dallas. All right, so we got the Dallas Mavericks. We got to talk about the Dallas Stars, and of course, we got to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So it's just the nature of the sports world centers around Dallas for some reason or another that we.
It's that Metroplex flex.
There you go, the Metroplex flex. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. So, but with that. Again, I want to thank you guys again. Make sure as you leave the show tonight, make sure you hit the like button. Certainly it helps out the show as you leave. And again, continue to enjoy the playoffs. And as we get ready, certainly for the NFL season, the NBA, and the NHL that's still in play. Hopefully, you guys out there enjoy yourselves. Until next time, you guys take care. God bless, and we will see you next time. Good day.